You're live.
Good evening and welcome to the Summers County Board of Education regular meeting. It is April 22nd, 2021, Thursday, and the time is 6:06 p.m. We want to apologize for being 6 minutes late, but we also want to welcome you to our new venue for Summers County School Board meetings, and we are coming to you tonight from the Memorial Building, which will now be the permanent home of Summers County Board of Education meetings. And so, having said that, item 1, roll call. Let the minutes reflect that all 4 members are present in the building. Item 2, invocation, pledge of allegiance. Mr. Brogan, would you do that for us, please?
Our Father in heaven, we just want to thank you for giving us another day. Thank you, God, always for giving us the health and strength we have to be able to perform our daily tasks. Father, as we come to you tonight, just want to just express our condolences one more time to the Angel family for the loss of Robert and what an important member he was. God, we pray that you'd be with us tonight as we go through the agenda. May we give each point proper amount of attention and make the best decision for Summers County Schools. Thank you, God, for all of our employees that are in this county, from service to professional to the office administration. We're just thankful for each one, God, and the part that they play. Lord, we just pray now that you go with us now through this meeting. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I would like to announce what I mentioned on Tuesday morning. Would like for everyone to know that the West Virginia School Building Authority, the SBA in Charleston, has awarded Summers County $8.2 million for building an annex onto the Summers County Comprehensive School Complex, and that annex will eventually house all of our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. I would also add that this $8.2 million is coming to us, and this will fund this without any county money, so that is a tremendous thing. We want to thank the SBA for recognizing and being willing to help Summers County in our need. Also, I want to take this time to thank Superintendent Warville and all of his central office staff who worked on this project. There were 30-some counties that had requests for money. Only 7 counties were awarded money. So Superintendent Warville, and to all of your staff, the board says thank you for a job well done. I know it was a team effort, and we are most appreciative of that. And this is something that Robert Angel would have been tremendously excited about because of his concern for what's good for the kids of Summers County. And this is going to be good for those kids of Summers County. And again, thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 3, approval of agenda and any adjustments. Does anyone have any adjustments or anything they would like to bring up regarding the agenda? If not,
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as read.
Chair seconds that. There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Brogan, seconded by the chair, that this board approve the agenda that has been presented to us by the superintendent of schools. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstaining. 4 votes in the affirmative, Superintendent Warville, the agenda has been approved. That brings us to item number 4, discussion and possible action to approve new board member. I'm sure most of you are aware that this board experienced a tremendous loss, the unexpected death of board member Robert Angel. And I don't have enough good things to say about Mr. Angel and how much this board misses him. But the biggest loss was the kids of Summers County and to his family. Having said that, this board has followed the West Virginia Code, Chapter 18, that governs public schools for replacing a board member in the middle of their term. And as such, we announced several weeks ago, and we had, for the time of death of Mr. Angel, 45 days to make this appointment. We are going to meet that schedule as per all of the dictates. We have had 8 applicants or citizens in Summers County who have expressed interest in sitting on the board. And I want to say right now that how well that speaks of citizenry, that 8 people would put their name in a hat to serve on this board and do that civic duty, and sometimes it's a difficult duty. But I want to thank everyone who has expressed that interest. I am going to read all the names and their addresses so that everybody knows everybody has had due consideration. If anybody knows of somebody that I left off, please let me know. We have an expression of interest by the following. Mr. Greg Angel of 610 Mark Meadow Road, Jumping Branch. Nicole Miller, 301 Hill Street, Hinton, West Virginia. Janima Bond, 516 Temple Street, Hinton, West Virginia. Chad A. Kellen, P.O. Box 893, Hinton, West Virginia. Megan Harvey of 518 Ballinger Road, Talcott, West Virginia. Mrs. Billy Persinger, 215 Summer Street, Hinton. James Withrow of Green Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. Bethany Bowling of 2982 Madams Creek Road, Hinton, West Virginia. Is anyone aware of any omissions that I have made regarding inquiries for this board position? Nobody's aware of any? Superintendent Warwick. Okay. A West Virginia code is very clear, Chapter 18, when it says that there can be no more than 2 sitting board members from any one magisterial district. In this county, we have 3 magisterial districts, one being Greenbrier, second being Bluestone, and the third is New River. Now, anyone who, and your eligibility as per magisterial district is determined by where your voting precinct from which you vote. And as for that, in looking at the applicants, we have 1 member in the Bluestone district, which is Mr. Broder. We have 1 sitting member from the New River district, which is Vice President Farr. We have 2 sitting members representing the Greenbrier district, which is the maximum amount allowed, and that would be myself and Mr. McBride. So that means that any applicants who vote or reside in the Greenbrier district, as per law, cannot be seated, because that would mean there are 3 in one magisterial district. So, having said that, Vice President Farr, do you concur with the regulations and everything that I have presented regarding this appointment as per Chapter 18?
I do, yes.
Okay, very good. Well, at this time, I think, does every member have the list before you of the applicants who expressed interest in being named to the board? I think at this time we are then ready. The chair opens up the floor and will entertain a motion or a recommendation that the board will consider for filling the position vacated by Mr. Robert Angel.
Mr. Duncan, I would like to make a nomination, but before I do, I would like to say a few things. I would like to make a nomination, but before I do, I would like to say just a few words about the man that we're about to replace. And first thing I'd like to say is Mr. Angel was my friend. And actually, that's the last time I'm going to refer to him as Mr. Angel, not out of disrespect, but simply because Robert was my friend. And I'm sure there's not anybody in here probably that after your conversation was over, the famous phrase, "If you need anything, give me a holler." And I have no doubt in my mind that Robert meant that. I mean, he truly is a man that will give you the shirt off his back. He's a very generous man. And for that reason, Robert will be hard to replace. I mentioned generous. When I was first elected to the board, Robert pretty much took me under his wing, and I got a call from him shortly after being elected, and he asked me if I wanted to go with him to the scholarship award ceremony. And so I rode down there with him. All the various scholarships were being awarded, and all of a sudden, Robert's name was called, and the man stood up and proceeded to hand out $1,000 checks to some of the kids to further their career in farming. And that's just unheard of generosity these days. And in my opinion, that's another reason that Robert will be hard to replace. Robert was and this is something that I just recently learned, Robert was a very devoted public servant in more areas than just the Board of Education. I just recently found out that he was a member of the County Fire Board. And in case you're wondering, that's a non-paid job. That's a public servant for you. And you certainly don't take one of these positions for the paycheck either. I mean, Robert was truly a public servant. And for that reason, he's not going to be easily replaced. Robert was a Christian man with deep-rooted morals, and he wasn't afraid to stand up for what he believed. We recently finalized a state review, as you guys all know, and they offered to me, during my part of the interview, they offered their condolences for the loss of Robert. And I told them, I said he was on a moral compass. And I think that's an important aspect in life, and for that reason, Robert's going to be hard to replace. Robert was proud of his family, last of all. And he always talked about them if there was business to be talked about. After that, if you had any time left, you're going to hear about his family, because he was proud of all the family. He knew that Nita lives down in my happy place, and he never missed an opportunity to tell me about what's going on down there at the beach. And anyway, we have among us today Greg Angel, his son. And he may not fit everything that I have just spoken about, but it's pretty close. And if nothing further, I would like to make the motion that we
Greg Angel that you want to see on the board?
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Brogan putting forth. There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Brogan putting forth the name of Greg Angel as the replacement for Mr. Robert Angel. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I second that.
Motion on the floor nominating Greg Angel to take the seat of his father, Robert Angel. Motion made by Mr. Brogan, seconded by Mr. McBride. Is there any discussion? If there is no discussion, then all in favor that Greg Angel be appointed to replace Mr. Robert Angel, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Let the minutes reflect that by a 4-0 vote in affirmative, Mr. Greg Angel has been approved to take the seat, the vacant seat on the Summers County Board. I guess we need to ask you, Mr. Angel, you're here. Do you accept that?
Yes, sir.
I will tell you that it is my understanding, and you tell me if you disagree, Mr. Orville, that the way the law is stated, and you can verify this with Mary Beth Merritt, that you will have to, if you want to continue on the board after July 1 of next year, you will have to be elected to this board, and you have to stand for election next spring. Also, that also means that at the end of the term for which your father was elected just this past year, you would again have to run at that time for that as well. So, without any further ado, did I say anything wrong, Superintendent Warble? Okay.
No, sir.
Without any further ado, Mr. Warble, Greg Angel needs to be sworn in, and this needs to be notarized in order to be compliant with Chapter 18 of West Virginia Code.
Come on out. Kenny, would you mind coming around holding the Bible for me? Because I can't hold a mic, a certificate, and the Bible at the same time. So this is your swearing in, so put your left hand on the Bible, put your right hand up. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of West Virginia.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of West Virginia.
And I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of the member of the Summers County Board of Education.
And I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Summers County Board of Education
To the best of my skill and judgment, so help me God.
to the best of my skill and judgment, so help me God.
You are now a board member. Congratulations. You need to sign the certificate, and Kaylin said that she would be our notary tonight and take care of the rest of the paperwork, okay?
Greg, when you just finish.
Appreciate it.
Very well. This board now has a full complement of members, 5 members. And so we introduce to the public our newest board member, Mr. Greg Angel. Congratulations, Greg. Do we have any green forms public comments?
No, we do not, sir.
Okay. At this time, we have a presentation by Mr. Trey Marone of Bowles Rice Law Firm regarding Summers County School Board policies. And so, Mr. Marone, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, President Duncan.
Okay. You now have the floor. All members, if you would, put before you these policy revisions that Trey Marone of Bowles Rice has put together for this board. I would like to tell the public that we had policies that had not been updated since 1973, and we had policies that we were supposed to have that we didn't have, and we had a lot of revisions to be done. This board has employed Bowles Rice, specifically Trey Marone, to revise these. We have asked him to determine which policies we did not have that we definitely needed to have, and to upgrade and reform policies based on a triage method of what he considered the most important. Have I been correct in that statement, Mr. Marone?
Yes, you have.
Okay, you now have the floor for your presentation, sir.
Thank you so much. First, I want to say congratulations to Mr. Angel on your new job, I would say, which is somewhat big earlier. There's not enough pay for this type of a job. I served myself as a board member, so congratulations, and what an honor to be your father. And secondly, congratulations to the board in general and the whole county of Summers with the $8.2 million SBA award for your school project. That's just fantastic. And I saw that red line and saw Summers County above it, and I was certainly thrilled when those results came out for your county.
As were we. As were we.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Turning to the policy review project, as President Duncan just mentioned, I'm doing a comprehensive review of all the policies of Summers County. I've been through a large number of those policies, and a little while back, some of those started making their way in packet form to the Board of Education. I see that you've got a half a dozen or so on your agenda this evening that have got started through the process, and it's kind of like turning a wheel as those move through across the board's desk for review and consideration, and that wheel is now turning. There are, like I said, several on your agenda this evening for approval. Your procedures, of course, are to place those out for public comment, which you've already done, and then now you're considering those for review. So behind those policies, and of course most of those policies, I believe, looking at them, a couple of them you had, but they were far outdated, and there's some requirements that had to be changed in them, and then some new policies that you didn't have at all. So most of those are more in the primary group, and there'll be more along those lines. But behind those, you have probably about 16 or 20 policies that I sent down in the recent, probably in the last week or so. That'll be the next cycle for the board to put out for public comment and to consider. So at this point in time, I have reviewed, revised, prepared packets for, and submitted to the superintendent's office about 2,000 policies, and that completes all of section 1, which is the introduction section under your policy manual, and section 2, which is the organization and administration manual. We've discussed before, and I've usually reviewed that there are a total of 8 sections in your manual, and we'll review each policy in every section. We've got the expense associated with this review is capped, so we'll work until we get it done for a specific amount, and so we'll just keep working until we get through all 171 policies that you've got. but again, we've now completed sections 1 and 2. You'll see all of those coming across your agenda probably at your next meeting, I would think. And I'm now working on chapters 3, which is internal and external relations, and chapter 8, which are fiscal and business management. Those will be the next 2 chapters we move into, and then when we get those done, which will be here in the next few weeks, we will have half of your chapters completed. I would suggest that, I know that your policies have been out for review. I would suggest that you would, President Duncan, that if your minutes would note that you have, placed them out for review, and whether or not you received any, comments, that those comments have been received, if any, and they've been reviewed and considered by board members. I know when I was on the board, we rarely got comments. I always like to see comments, honestly, but we rarely got them. But I just would always note that because there were no comments or whatever comments were received have been reviewed. And then once those policies are voted on by the board as far as adoption, if they're adopted, of course, as is, I've got that actual version because I sent it to you. If there's any tweaking done or changes made to what I've submitted to you, I would just ask that the superintendent have his staff notify me that the policy was adopted at a particular meeting. And then if there's any changes that were made by the county board, just to make sure I know that. And then when that information comes to me, I will finalize the policy and form, adding the review and amended date that the board, approved and reviewed it and amended it. And of course, if there's any changes, I will make those. And then I will turn that around very quickly within, probably 48 hours, back to the superintendent, and you will have the final version of the policy as approved by the county board. And it can be placed in the board's, policy manual and uploaded to the board's website. So I know the turning of the wheel, like I said, has begun. And when we get through the first cycle, I think probably in a month or two, everybody they'll have it down pat as far as how the process is working. So that's kind of an update of where we are. If there were any particular questions that you or any of the board members had, I'd be glad to field those now and answer them the best I can.
Members, does anyone have any questions? We've all had these and been over them and read them. Are there any questions by any members at this time for Mr. Moreau? There are no questions, Mr. Moreau, and that's because you did such a thorough job. Okay.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Does that conclude your presentation, sir?
Yes, sir, it does. And I appreciate y'all having me. I always enjoy coming. I'm gonna pop in there live here too. One of these days. I've been there before, as you know, but kind of anxious to get down there in a new location. But I'll be down there working live here when we near coming months. But in the meantime, and I think we've announced before, I'll be happy to zoom in. Definitely at least one regular meeting a month, and I would come in too if the superintendent lets me know that you need me at another meeting to discuss these policies. I'll be happy to do that. And these times that I do this are no charge.
Thank you very much, sir, and we look forward to seeing you. You're welcome anytime. We appreciate your presentation, and you have a nice evening.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you.
That concludes our presentation by Mr. Moreau. Moving on to item 7, approval of minutes for April 8, 2021 board meeting, regular meeting. There's a motion on the floor by Vice President Farley, seconded by Mr. Brogan, that this board approve the minutes as presented to us by Superintendent Worrell for the April 8, 2021 board minutes of our regular meeting. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstaining. Let the minutes reflect by 5 votes in affirmative. This board has approved the April 8, 2021 board minutes. Item 8, student success stories. Any to present tonight?
I'll just put 8, 9, and 10 as one badge tonight. The only thing I really have to say tonight is I'm going to get you more information, but remember when Derek P. was here about new school and what he can offer with after-school tutoring on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays? At this point in time, I don't want to be too premature about it, but we're having such a good turnout that our bus drivers are getting more hours driving, getting kids home, which the bus drivers have been great to make sure every kid gets home. And the after-school program so far, we're almost to 15% of the population at the 6 through 12 location, which kids are getting caught up with their work. And then Hinton Area Elementary, I talked to Miss Angel tonight, and she said last night and tonight, they're around 50 to 54 kids. What that means is kids need to get caught up with whatever they're behind. And the CARES Act money was provided for this type of environment. Kids to catch up on work or to enhance what they've been learning if they need caught up. It doesn't mean they're flunking classes. It just could mean I just need to ask questions and verify. We also have quite a few high school students and junior high students who are also coming that are fine with their grades, but they want to help teach and help their fellow classmates. And they're getting paid to do that as well. So obviously getting paid to do that is a good carrot, but we'll get data to you guys when this is all done, because this is all well and good, and it looks good, it feels good, but we still need to see data to show that it made a difference. So we will have data, but we're going to have to wait till after school's out, because at that point in time, we're doing graduation, closing up schools, getting ready for summer school. But having said that, we will get you some data, and I told Derek with new school that my board, if I was a board member, it all sounds good, it feels good, looks good, but that doesn't mean we're doing anything. And so he will get us the data, and we'll get back with you in a full report in about a month, okay?
Thank you very much.
That's one that as we spoke about before, I struggled with the money part of that, and so it's really good to know that it's being utilized and looking forward to the results.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Well, the fact that the students are showing up, I promise you there's going to be improvement. So that is a student success story.
Yep.
And obviously this fits the bill for instructional initiatives, and good deal.
Nobody's really volunteering.
Yeah, and I didn't mention that. I didn't mention that.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Well, we have to laugh at that. It's life.
Well, at this point, we're moving to item 11, approval of bills. Members, you have before you in your packet a list of all bills that have been presented to us by the CSBO Treasurer and Superintendent Warble. I don't think there's any bills on there from Safe and Sound. I've looked. Did anybody see any bills from McGraw-Hill or James Law? No such bills. Okay, we have the bills before us. Chair would entertain a motion.
It's one of the rare times that I can make a motion to pay all the bills.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor from Mr. Brogan to pay the bills that have been presented to us. Is there a second?
I'll say.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Brogan, second by Mr. McBride, that this board approve the paying of the bills as presented to us by the CSBO and Superintendent Warble. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Abstaining? For voting no. Mr. Warble, let the minutes reflect that 5 votes in affirmative. This board has approved the paying of the bills you presented to us. Do we have any transfers and supplements?
No, sir.
It's good to see we don't have any old business. That brings us to new business items. And the first new business item is 14A, approved purchases over $20,000. If you look in your packet, members, you will see a purchase for Prince Management LLC in the amount of $92,530, source being county. Superintendent Warble, would you take this over, please?
Yeah, I'm going to yield to our new facilities director. He will give you an update and answer any of your questions as we move forward, okay? And
Thank you.
I'll be able to field some too if you have any for me, but I'm going to give it to Mr. Lester right now.
We received a number of bids on this project. Prince came in considerably lower. You have a schematic in front of you. But if you look at the Prince spec sheet, they spec out the rooms and what exactly they're going to be putting in, the emergency exit lights. There it notes things that will have to be done by the county, such as painting. But when it comes down to cost effectiveness, this bid was within our budget. The other ones were outside of our budget. So this is what we have to live within our means. We also have to act quickly because we need to get the board offices moved in time to get the old board office ready for Hinton area to use. So we're on a time crunch. Prince management notes that the materials list and cost for the materials was as of when this was spec'd out. They agreed to eat any additional material costs. So this will not exceed $100,000. Will not exceed $100,000. The bid is $92,530. If you look at your schematic, the area in green would be the area that is covered under this. And the reason that item 10 on your schematic is in red is because we had the food service director mentioned the cost of moving the walk-in freezer. We also have an issue with another one of our walk-in freezers, so we think that it's most cost effective to leave that walk-in freezer alone because it will take $15,000 probably to move it.
Is it not a noise issue?
No, well, we're gonna, if you look on your schematic there, I talked to Charlie and there will be, the doors there will be closed off and then there will be a door put back toward the warehouse so the freezers can be accessed that way instead of on the board side. So that'll cut down on the noise and still allow access from where the other freezers are in the warehouse back there. So if you see the little door symbol and it's in red, that's the change. And the other red markings, you'll also notice those are walls that'll have to be done in-house by our maintenance crew. In full disclosure, we do not have a master electrician on staff, so if any electrical stuff needs to be added to 12, 11, or the conference room or kitchen, we will have to do that in-house. We'll have, that may be an extra cost is what I'm saying, is we may not have the expertise to do that. But when it comes down to getting the board offices in that building before August, this is our best option. This was the only option, was within budget. And I recommend that we go forward.
For the sake of full disclosure and transparency, I would like the public to know that we're about to consider approving a contract that will renovate and create office space for our Summers County Central Office that will be located in the old cafeteria beneath Perry Memorial Gym at the middle school. Now you may ask, why are we doing this? The current board office, which we've been in since, I guess, the 1970s, we're going to be doing some renovation in there that will use COVID or CARES Act money. And because of the fact that Hinton Area Elementary has been bursting at the seams, the current board office will be a site in which we will move certain functions of the Hinton area into that building. Is that correct, Superintendent Ward?
Yes, and for the amount of money that we're using with the county, when you look at $100,000 or less, you're really getting a new facility without paying for new facility stuff with all the government money that's coming our way. And Lauren and I can give you more explanation, but this money's coming out of Step 7 budget. We really haven't used our Step 7 budget much because we've been using CARES Act money for technology purposes and other. When you look at Step 7, the Step 7 budget is getting pretty full, which is good. And we did this so we could make this move to get out of that building so that we could have all these facilities be used for students and actually use CARES money for the facilities. So real quick, Hinton Area Elementary, they will end up in the future, near future will be the old board office being renovated for STEM, title services, Raynell Medical, and a couple other items they're thinking about, but that's okay because we're not there yet. If you go out to Talkit, we're going to do the gymnasium. That gymnasium is going to be used for not only school purposes, but also for the community, kind of like a few years ago when there was flooding. It could be used for a place for people to go and stay and sleep and be safe, because that's what it should be used for. In a case like that, Jumping Branch, new roof, new HVAC, and eventually we'd like to get them a multi-purpose facility. Hinton Area, we'd like to get them a gymnasium as well. So when you look at all these projects, our county is going to be under construction for a few years. This is what we can use this facilities money for in the future for anything that's dealing with students. When you deal with just adults, like a board office, that is an absolute no-no. I tried, they said no. I asked again, we said no. So then we talked to the fire marshal. He said at that point in time, give us the schematics. We need to know where the electric's going to be, and we need to know how you're going to handle stuff with the current fire alarm system, because, you know, when people are in that building, you have to have egress and ingress into the facilities and handicap accessibility. That's all there in this. They said that as long as they, being the fire marshal, as long as it's 7,000 square feet, right? It's not.
I vaguely remember the square footage.
This is less than 7,000 square feet, so no children, less than 7,000 square feet. You just need this kind of paperwork. They get the blessing and they move on. He did say though, when you go to do the electrical, you'll need a certified electrician because you're going to have to get it up to 2021 standards. Technically, right now, our fire requirements are being met, but as soon as you touch that and change anything, it becomes null and void, and you have to come up to today's standards. That's what any facility. That's what we're looking at. One other thing we're looking at that we can't use CARES money for, we can use county money, but I can have Ms. Crook speak more intelligently to this, but we've saved back money to fix the wall at the bus garage, so that is being addressed too. 2 weeks ago, I had a gentleman go with Ken and I, or was that just last? No, it was just last week. Sorry. And he said that we'll take pictures, we'll look at it, but no matter what you do, because I want an outside opinion, he said get engineers on all these facilities, because this is getting outside all of our comfort zone. Meaning, none of us in this room can make that decision without an architect and engineers to tell us yay or nay on what we do. That protects everybody, the board as decision makers, the administration as decision makers, and it protects our employees and our students. So there's going to be a lot of construction. Summers County is under construction for the next 5 years. But this is one of the phases where we got to get out so we can start renovating that other facility at the current board office for the Hinton Area complex. So did that answer your question?
It did.
Okay. Does anybody else have any? I want to make sure I answer all your questions.
Quickly, you had mentioned having the county do some things. What kind of things, and do they have enough time? Because with everything going on,
Yep.
I would think they would already be very busy, so that wouldn't be able to be something they have time for.
Are you talking about this?
Yes.
The gentleman said, and I'll give this to Mr. Lester, but When you say time, yes, there's enough time, they can start Monday if you approve it tonight. I'm not trying to push them to approve it, because if you don't feel comfortable, then you don't feel comfortable. But he said he can start Monday morning and be done in 6 weeks.
Oh, no, I was talking about the county, the part that the county's doing. Do we have the manpower for the things that,
Oh, I got you. I misunderstood you, ma'am.
yeah,
Yes, we have the manpower, but like anything else, if something pops up and something happens, then what we can do, and we've been talking about this, and Ms. Crook can correct me if I'm wrong, but we can this summer post someone posting jobs for maintenance. And that means if you're a bus driver, secretary, aide, any service personnel at Cook, and you pass the maintenance portion of the test, we could hire you to come in and do some maintenance work with the guidance of Charlie being over the top of that. You see what I'm saying? We are hiring a third maintenance / we're making that Larry Cochran's old job, we riffed that. That's gonna be a full-time position, so that's another person that could help out with what you're asking. Does that answer your question?
well, one of them.
Okay, okay.
So
Did that help?
I just want to
Ms.
add,
Crook?
just a few hours for this meeting, I brought our maintenance supervisor in and said, are you comfortable with doing this before I go before the board? I also said, you know, obviously the electrical stuff, we'll probably have to incur some additional cost outside of that. He said yes. But as far as painting and stuff like that, this isn't turnkey. And it is going to be a phased approach. The business office will probably have to stay where they are just long enough to close out the year and spin up the new fiscal year. And we're just all going to have to be patient in this move. So if the sooner we get started, then we can bite off pieces as we go, and hopefully before August, we have everybody moved over and we have the ability to use the old board office that is an annex of Hinton area. But you're right, something could come up, but we know we may be living with a half completed project for a little while.
Is there going to be significant additional cost if we have to go through the county? Because you say electrical and I immediately start thinking electricians.
Well,
That could be expensive quickly.
During the walkthrough, one of the electricians noted that currently there is some remediation that has to be done back to the main entrance where the power is already. So some of that electrical cost is baked into getting the box corrected. And so a lot of that is already being taken care of. But we may need a few extra outlets and stuff is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So I'm gonna start with the simplest question for you probably. Is there any significance to the dark green on this schematic?
No, that is last minute printing and a printer that is, Miss Jones' printer did the best it could.
I was just curious.
But I will note that the darker area there you see is, I said, that's a last minute change, and I said, will that come in under 100,000? Can you do that for us? Because we're losing item 10 here due to the freezer issue. And I threw him a curveball and he said that he could do that.
Okay.
And that was originally outside the scope.
Okay. And to kind of feed off of one of Ms. Farley's questions there, so the in-house work, is any of the work that Prince management is going to do, is any of their work contingent on the in-house work, or will all the in-house work be done after Prince is finished?
The marks in red is after or concurrent. It will not impede the other work from happening. We do have a few, Charlie has done a great job at getting a lot of his equipment organized and back into the old band and hallway area. If you look at it right now, it looks like a well-cataloged library. I'm impressed. And there's just a few pieces to get out, and then we have a stack of tables that the seats have been, Charlie have fixed the seats for Hinton area. Those tables are going to Hinton area soon. So those things need to get moved out, but those seats were fixed for the kids at Hinton area. So we're reusing those tables to save cost, going back to trying to not be wasteful.
And then my last question, is, so you have 9 offices here, that means everyone will have their own office?
That's why when we lose number 10, that's why I went, when we did a walkthrough, is that this morning?
We did not.
He came down and I had a few extra questions this morning early. I said, can I guarantee the board that under what you've spelled out here in your contract, that since we're number 10 has the freezer issue and Dr. Knott would like to continue to use that, can you accomplish what's in the darker green and still stay under, not to exceed $100,000? And he said yes.
So the darker green is going to be an office area? Is that?
It'll be 2 areas there. So you'll have 9, 10, 11, 12 plus a conference room. So that's an office for everyone.
In that corner there, in the very corner, that dotted square, is the HVAC. That's the HVAC in that corner. And if you go by number 9, that's the other side of the HVAC. So there's going to be a wall there with a door because of the noise issue, or to work on it. Because it's going to need some service at some point in time.
So I went, and since Mr. Worrell brought up the HVAC, and it's a good question, the compressors outside, the external units of the HVAC, they're 7 or 8 years or less. They're in good shape. The internal air handling units, there's 2 of them. Charlie did mention that they're in need of being replaced pretty soon. They're in bad shape. So they're about $5,000 a piece. We can live with them now, but he told me, don't expect much.
Are there any other questions by any members? If not, Superintendent Worrell, I want to congratulate you and Mr. Lester on the thoroughness of your presentation. It was very professional. You answered every question, and it was in depth. And as board president, I'm sure every member here, we appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate that. I will tell you guys this. When you're talking to people out in Summers County, we're going to put something on the webpage eventually. But we're like I said to the reporter yesterday, we're going to be under construction for 5 years. That's not just the addition to the junior high wing at the high school. This is every part of the county, their facilities are going to get upgraded. Another upgrade I would like to do is look at safe school entrances and windows. We're finding out that I think what happened was everybody's getting this money and everybody's wanting to use it for stuff like that, but everybody was told, hold off, hold off, hold off. And I think what the state did, every state probably got questions from guys like me asking, could we do this? Well, then when each state is starting to ask questions from other superintendents in every county and every state, it becomes, this is a good way to use the federal dollars. This makes sense with federal dollars. You don't have to tax your people because you're already using tax money anyway, because let's be honest, we're going to pay for this later. I mean, we are going to pay for this. So, but everybody's going to feel the pinch. But what I would like to do is make sure every one of our facilities has what they need. And then if there are some wants, we'll work on the wants. But right now, the needs are everybody in the county is getting some sort of an upgrade and being looked at. But we really have to get out of there to make that first move. And Ms. Crook will tell you a little bit later about how we are saving some money to really build up our maintenance that we told the state that we're going to do in our presentation with the school building authority. Well, we're going to have a work session. We can be more detailed at that point in time, but maybe tonight she can give you a quick, here's about how much money we have, and we're going to share with you in our work session how we're getting there. But the way we're going to get there is by using county money second or third, using CARES money or title money or any grant money that comes to us first, and then hold off on the county money because someday it's going to dry up. And we need that money for not rainy day, but how to maintain our buildings, because that's not a rainy day fund, that's a maintenance fund, because everything has a life expectancy. And so Charlie's kind of letting us know, you might want to think about this, or this, or this. And then when you start asking more questions, you realize, we got a lot of maintenance we need to do, but let's go ahead and use CARES money with facility. May 14th, we're going to hear from the State Department. They're going to give us more detail from Amy Willard and Melanie Perkey. Those two women are in charge of facilities, federal money, and finances overall. So we're going to get more guidance on if we can or can't spend money on certain things. But at this point in time, that third round of money, that $8.1 million, it looks like right now we can spend about 6 out of the 8 towards facilities. That's a heck of a deal for us right now to think that way. So that's why I want to say we're under construction for 5 years. And when we have that work session, I want to give you a 1-year plan out to 5. So you have, I don't want people to say, Mr. Warble promised this. It's called a work session to look at. You don't know what you're going to be doing 5 years from now, but you got a plan. If you're, let's say you want to go on vacation, you might be able to have enough money, you might not. Instead of going to Disney, maybe you go to Dollywood. I don't know. The point is, you have to plan accordingly to put money away and to project what you're going to do. So I appreciate Mr. Lester seriously jumping in. He's literally stressed out, but I think he's understanding the job is well worth it when you start seeing things get put together. But he's done a heck of a job jumping in. And Ms. Crook and I, and Ms. Jones down there, we have to tell him, relax, it's going to be okay. And we chew him once in a while.
Okay, members and the public, what we have before us is a request. It's going to be recommended by the superintendent for an expenditure of $92,530, county money, which we've been able to save because of the fact we've been allowed to use CARES Act money for a lot of other things. I want to point out that one of the reasons we need more space in Hinton area is that we need more space at the high school. The pre-K program, which is part of our CTE, those children in that program will be moved back to Hinton area, which brings in additional students, which demands more space. Therefore, there needs to be an overflow to house other things at the current board office. Board office will be renovated with CARES Act money. Also, this should relieve some of the traffic congestion around the current board office. I've always been concerned about that, as everybody has, and that's a real plus. Another plus here is that our central office is going to utilize space that this county board already owns. And we're going to renovate the old cafeteria. And that is also going to afford us more parking space. And it won't be such a hassle out there. So there are any number of positives here. And so at this point, Superintendent Warble, is it your recommendation that this board consider approval of the $92,530 for this project at the cafeteria, which will house our new central office?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you have it before you. The chair moves that this board approve the expenditure of the $92,530 of county money for a contract with Prince Management LLC for the construction or renovation of the cafeteria beneath Perry Memorial Gym for the purpose of housing the central office staff, and that this is a long one, so you have to take this off of there, and that this project, that you have copies of detailed expenditures, materials, and what they're doing, that you have that on file. And That is the chair's motion.
Also.
Motion on the floor with the chair, second by Mr. Brogan, that this board approve the expenditure of $92,530 for the construction phase for the new central board office beneath Perry Memorial Gym. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining. Superintendent Warwick, by 5 votes in affirmative, this board has approved the expenditure of $92,530 with Prince Management LLC for the construction of the new board office in the old cafeteria beneath Perry Memorial.
Thank you.
I would add, be sure that you have that addendum on there, Ms. Jones, that we talked about before. You remember the one we talked about? It's in policy 8200 at the end?
Yes.
Okay.
There was 2 others that you asked for.
Let's do it. Okay, so that'll be fine. Okay. That now brings us to item 14B under new business, which is budget hearing. Superintendent Warble, is this going to be presented to us by CSBO?
Yes, Ms. Crook's going to do that. Before we move on, I don't want to belabor the first part, but we are finding out that jumping branch roof system that we want to put on, we might be able to use CARES money, so that'll save the county some more money there as well. So we budgeted county money for 3 projects. This one here that you just approved, the roof at Jumping Branch, and then I call it the wall at the bus garage. So we just kind of try to budget. Right now we're budgeting about $100,000 for the bus garage wall. I don't know how much. I have no idea how much it's going to cost. Could be more, could be less, but. And then we budget about $30,000 to $50,000 for the roof at Jumping Branch. I'll give you more details later, but I think we might be able to 50-50 right now. We could maybe use the CARES Act to cover that, and that'll save money for our county. If that saves money there, we can move that to the bus garage for costs that we didn't know about. So just want to let you guys know that. So it is changing weekly on guidance from CARES Act money. But I'm going to turn this over to the CSBO. Ms. Crook.
Okay, so in your all's packet, can you all hear me okay? Okay, so in your packet, you have several items. Of course, we have our annual budget that's coming up that I've put together, but I wanted to show you all some of the things that I use to where we start, but these numbers don't just come out of thin air. We talked about before the formula that we have. Based on what we've done this year with our personnel, currently we are under what we're projected for next year. We're under formula in professional by 0.3. So we've really been able to, with attrition, absorbing these positions, we've really been able to cut our personnel down to where we need to be based on our state formula.
And we've done that by absorbing positions.
Yes.
Very good job. Thank you all.
Also with service, this is one of the areas that it's really hard to be under. Based on what our student needs are, we may have a student who comes in who's special needs, who may need a personal care aide, or we may need another special ed aide to take care of those classes, or we have one student that's over in kindergarten, so we can't just get away with just having a teacher with 10 kids. We have to add another aide because of that one student. So right now, what we're projected for next year is to be under formula by 2.5 service employees, based on that would be paid out of the state formula, which is really great. It's very hard to be under formula with service. So we're doing a great job there. The thing that has helped with service is our CARES funding, because we've been able to take some of these positions and use it with CARES, with loss of learning, with those guidelines that we have with those funds, we can use those for those positions. The first paper that I have in your all's folders is our title allocations. Title I for next year, we are receiving a little over $1 million. Title II is $113,000, and Title IV is $79,000. So that's where we came up with these numbers. This is not any of our carryover. This is only our fiscal year 22 funds that we will be getting with federal dollars there. The second handout that you have is the first round of CARES funding. Well, the first and second round of CARES funding. Our first round of money, we've basically spent all that. $937,000 that we received. Those funds we have allocated for this year. We've used technology, cleaning supplies, supplies in the classroom, you know, any of those sorts of things, transportation costs, some fuel costs. We've used that, those funds for those expenses. Our second round, which we budgeted for fiscal year 22, we received $3.4 million. So whenever we get to the budget further on in this part, you'll see where we are spending that $3.4 million. Third handout is our third round of CARES eSurf. They're calling this the American Rescue Plan. So what we're calling it on our side is the ARP money. They have set some guidelines with these funds. Even though we will be receiving the $8.1 million, we do have to have at least 1.7 that's going to address learning loss, 57,000, I'm sorry, wrong line, 42,000 for summer enrichment, 42,000 for after school, and then based on the discretion of the LEA, or what we decide to do at the local level, is approximately 6.2 million. So we're going to have some say-so of where these funds are going. We've asked multiple times, you know, between Melanie Perkey, Amy Willard, we've come together and say, hey, can we spend money for this? We've tried to say, well, you know, this is how it can relate to student learning loss. This is how it's going to help enrich students. There's just been so many restrictions on some of these funds that you can't spend it. We have our CARES funding will go through September of 2024. So we will have this money at that point in time. This is a lot of money to spend. That's a good, kind of a good problem to have at this point in time. The fourth document that we have is this is our school support. This is the final computations that comes from the state. This shows there are 10 steps to the state formula. And this shows just each step of how much we're allowed to get. This is based on our enrollment and what our local share is. So this is just 14 pages of documents saying our enrollment, our how many teachers we're allowed to have, how many service personnel we're allowed to have, student support personnel, and this is what we go off of. So this comes back to that, how we were under employees of professional and service. And last document you have is the actual, our working budget at this time. This is based on the program function. The first page that you have there is going to be all Fund 11. These are all local funds. The first line item, our county tax, we should see approximately $2.6 million from local tax revenue. We're budgeting very conservative, about $12,500 for interest expense on our bank account. I will say that this last year we've done really well. We moved banks a couple years ago to go to City National. We have a very healthy cash flow right now, and our interest, we've almost doubled what we've projected out for this year in interest. So that's been a really good step with that move. The next is our state aid, which is approximately $6 million, and then it's broken out. The next line item is the $3.2 million. This is our PEIA and unfunded retirement. We don't actually receive these funds. We book these funds, but it's not cash or money that flows through our account. We book it whenever instead of sending in our PEIA payment that may be $150,000 a month, we would take our allocation off of our bill, which would give us, you know, we may only send $30,000 in. So that's how we book that. We don't actually receive those funds. It goes on down. There's general ed, student support, curriculum. As you can see also, there's the FTE on here, which is how many full-time equivalent personnel we have. So that kind of goes through there. I can go through every line item, or if you have a specific question, it's kind of up to you all how you want me to handle that. The next section is step 7. Again, expanding on what Mr. Warble had said, we have been able to use our CARES funding to leave our step 7 funds. So we have some discretion to use those step 7 funds for county projects, kind of like what we talked about with the board office, the bus garage, the roof at Jumping Branch. Because we're not utilizing these funds because we've used CARES money, these funds we can use for our projects.
Ms. Crook, can you let them know that this is new money though right here, right?
What is that?
Step 7?
Step 7, yes, on this form, this is new money.
So when you see new money on this, we still have old money in step 7 that we're trying to allocate for these building projects. Does that make sense? So this is on top of what we saved. So this is what we're trying to let you know. We're putting our eggs in another basket for these kind of projects, if that makes sense.
It makes sense to me, and it pleases the county taxpayers.
Yes, it does. Should.
And another thing to note on this, I did not include any of our carryover balances. This is all just based on new money. This does not include any of our balances that we have currently right now. So the budget that is before you, that's being proposed for fiscal year 22, is only funds for next year, what we're gonna be receiving. I have not included any of the carryover in that. Right, and I haven't done that for the purpose of, we're still spending those funds right now, and if we spend more money, then I'm gonna have to go back and redo the budget multiple times. So I'm waiting until July, when we have those hard numbers, to bring that carryover forward. Of course, we have bus replacement. We are in that lease cycle. I think we're on track to purchase 2 buses next year, which the lease has really helped us to make sure that our fleet value is increasing. Technology, step 7B, advanced placement. So we do have some money that is remaining with the Fund 11 that we can carry forward, that we can put in contingency if something were to come up that we would need those funds for. Fund 61, the only amount that I carried over, which would be old money, was the Title I money. The reason that I did include this carryover is because we have a lot of title money. We currently have a little over $700,000 in Title I money from fiscal year 21. Fiscal year 22, we're getting over another $1 million. For fiscal year 22, we are adding the high school comprehensive facility to our Title I funds to be able to pay for a couple positions out of Title I at that facility, which will help us, again, open up county funds for other projects that we may need. Title II, we do have approximately right now about $35,000 worth of carryover, but again, we don't have a good definite number on that until year end. Also with IDEA, those were the only numbers that we do not have our new numbers for next year, so everything's being budgeted on our fiscal year 20 totals. Food service, I'm working with Tanya Keaton right now to finalize that budget, but right now everything that's included are the wages for food service. What is included in CARES, which is Fund 71 on page 5 of the budget, this is our $3.4 million. We have not budgeted our 8.2, 8.1, whatever that $8 million was. We have not budgeted that yet. We have not received the final, I think we go on May the 14th to see what we can spend those funds on, but that has not been sent to us yet. So we're only budgeting round 2 at this point in time. And with round 2, as you can see on the last page, we do have several areas, technology supplies, training, PD, operations of our building, transportation, food service. We did set aside $830,000 worth of round 2 that we've been approved for building projects. So we have set aside that $830,000 just for our facilities out of that round 2. That's kind of where our budget is right now. Again, this is a work in progress, so if we do have a work session or we come together again to talk, if you have any other specific questions, just let me know. This is just an overview. We can go down to the location level if you want to look at it that way. Any other questions you may have? We do have to approve the budget by the end of May. We have 2 meetings in May. I will bring you a more finalized budget on May the 13th, and then if we have any questions, we can wait to approve anything after that.
Do any members have any questions of Mrs. Crook?
I just had one. I just wondered if you, and this may be a guess,
Okay.
but I just wondered where we would stand on state aid formula with personnel and professional without CARES.
Without CARES, did a pretty good job with moving people just to title funds and taking the high school facility into that title fund formula. That helped. We probably would be a couple people over with professional, but if you were looking at service, we would probably be 7 to 10 over in service. Again, I know that
Still an improvement over recent past.
most definitely. I do think that, we could see an influx of students though come August or come September. You never know if people do come in or enrollment numbers change. We may have to hire people, which would cause us to be over formula, which we would then, in the next couple of years, then we would get reimbursed for those funds. But I would like to hold off if, any, other than the positions that we definitely know that we need right now. We kind of wait to see what our numbers do look like come August, if we do need to add any more positions.
Any other questions by any members? If not, I would like to say thank you, Mrs. Crook, for the in-depth thoroughness of your presentation. And we may have some questions that we'll ask when we do the next work session coming up in a few weeks. I do want to say that the board is pleased, and we want to continue to encourage, and I know you all will, funding of that maintenance contingency fund so that we build that up, so that we don't have to hold our breath like we have in the past if something goes out and wonder where in the world we're going to get the money. And by the way, we made that promise, we weren't lying, we made that promise to School Building Authority when that presentation was made that we were going to do that, and they will take us at our word on that. Okay, thank you very much. Moving down the agenda, we are now at the point for 14C, approved policies. Superintendent Warble, we have on this list 5 policies to approve that have been out on review. And I wanted to know, did we get any public comment? And if so, did we address that public comment other than Mr. Lester?
No, and I think that's why Trey from Bulls Rice made the comment that the comments that we got were semantics about verbiage. And if that's the case, then it doesn't change the policy, it just cleans up, like Mr. Maroon said, he'll just clean whatever up, and then you guys can go from there and put it in our policy book and say, so if you approve these tonight, it'll say, Board of Ed approved policies on this date, and then there's the policies. He'll just clean up any of those little things, but no policy will be changed because nobody made any comments. You all don't see any problem with it, so then you just move forward now.
Okay. Bear with me. We have 14C approved policies. Superintendent Warble, do you have that list there?
Of the policy?
Yes, that we're going to
Yeah, the policy
approve.
to.
I have it.
Okay.
Yes.
You mean like these policies right here?
No. The list on the agenda. You have your agenda?
Oh, yeah, they're listed.
We have on here policy 2B-4, promoting school board effectiveness.
Yeah.
Policy 4-H-4, reduction in force laterally. Policy 7-C-1, student grievance procedure. Policy 4-L-3, Title IX, sexual harassment. Policy 7-C-1, guidelines and procedures, Title IX, sexual harassment. Those are the ones that we reviewed that Mr. Marone, Bowles Rice, first reworked for us, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So those are the ones, members, that we are asked to approve tonight. We've all seen them and read them. They've been in our packets. We've had presentations by Mr. Marone. These are ones that absolutely were done first because we got to have them. We were very remiss by not having them. So, having said that, are there any questions by any members regarding these policies or any points you want to make?
Mr. Duncan, it's not a question, it's just a statement. My notes that I took from Mr. Morone tonight is, you vote as is adopted at the meeting, and then Mr. Morone will finalize and turn around within 48 hours to make it said policy. So whenever you vote, he cleans it up within 48 hours. It's now official out there for people to see. Does that make sense?
Okay, so we are being asked to approve what has been presented to us on paper on these policies.
Yes.
Okay.
And with the said changes that were put out on public comment, but that was just the verbiage.
Just the verbiage, and the members, nobody wanted to do any addendums or didn't object to any. Yes, sir? Nobody's objecting to it, everybody's happy with them as presented. Okay.
Okay, the only part that needs to be struck off is there's a part in here where it says district's online portal on its webpage. We don't have a district online portal on the webpage. That's the only thing that needs to be technically struck out. But I think that's what Trey, if we're going in the spirit of this, he would clean that part up.
And that's under which policy?
Student grievance.
The student grievance policy, what is that, VII?
Okay.
C1.
7C-1.
7C1, student grievance process, yes.
Okay, and tell me again what needs to be struck.
It says district online portal on its webpage. And that's on page 4 of that policy. I can read it again if you'd like.
I've got it, I
Okay.
think. It's district online portal on its webs.
Yes.
Webpage or website?
Web page, and that needs to be struck out. That's the only comment that we received, is that verbiage. Okay? And that comes from our technology director, because he knows what our web page can handle and what it doesn't have, so we just want to make sure that's cleaned up.
All right, I'm going to put forth a motion here. The chair moves that this board approve the policies under 14C new business, being policy 2B-4, policy 4-H-4, policy 7-C-1, student grievance procedure, that will have struck from it the verbiage of district online portal on its webpage. Approve also policy 4-L-3, and finally policy 7-C-1. That is the chair's motion.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor by the chair, second by Vice President Farley, that the previously read policies of 14C be approved by this board, and that 7-C-1 have struck from it the verbiage of district online portal on its web page. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion regarding these policies? If not, then all in favor of approving these previously read policies, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining. Superintendent Warble, please have Mr. Marone strike that, clean that up, and get these policies in our manual and on the website, because they have been approved by 5 votes in the affirmative. Okay. We're now here, and I have a question here, Superintendent Warble. We're moving to, under new business 14D. It says approved policy to be placed on review, and that is policy 3-B-2, parental involvement. Now, we were given tonight a lot of other verbiage, but we're going to do those. You will ask us to approve those later to be put on review. Is that correct?
That's
or can you
correct.
explain it? Okay.
Yeah, the 11 that you received tonight, you just look over those, and then at the next board meeting, we can put those on review. We don't need to hurry the process. It's been 4 years.
No, we want to be thorough.
So, and some haven't been seen in 10 years. So let's just take our time, be thorough. Let's just do what this one says to put on review. And then the others that you received tonight that Trey was speaking of, it should have in red stuff that's being struck out or updated with federal and state guidelines and laws that have been passed. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
So the chair would ask that all members review carefully those 11 additional policies that Mr. Marone and Bowles Rice have presented to us. Please review them, because At the next meeting, Superintendent Warble has indicated he will have an agenda item for us to approve those policies to be placed on review, and we can have a discussion of those. If that's not the answer I wanted to hear.
Yeah, but
That-
I never lie, but I will embellish and have fun with people, but.
Calendar public hearings.
Not at a public hearing though, but on a serious note, we did have a committee, and we did have a superintendent's conference last week, and Superintendent Burke said, at this point in time, continue to do what you all have done in the past with calendars, move forward, and do like you've always done, and if the governor would step in like he did last year, then the governor steps in. Other than that, it was kind of fun to watch people come up with a math formula of trying to get all the days in before, within a calendar year. That's not always easy to do. But just real quick, I learned my lesson last year, and the bus drivers had fun at my expense, and I appreciate them to let me know you all can get your guns ready during Thanksgiving week. But having said that, I do learn my lessons, and I can make fun of myself. But I will be serious on this. We have like 3 breaks in there. You got Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter basically breaks. We tried to work it in the front end of the school year to have some professional development, get ready for school, and then we put at the end the OS days, because what will happen is we are not allowed to use virtual or remote learning as a way to get around snow days. So we can go back to reimagine time and use those 5 days, but if we would have a snow day after using the 5 reimagined days instead of snow days, we then have to make up days. And that's why at the end of the calendar, you have a moving target of, we might have to, let's say we have a lot of bad snow next year. We have days to show that we can make that up at the end of the school year. So like this school year, we didn't have to use our days up, so we are now getting out on the teacher's last day is June 3rd. Is that correct, Ms. Jones? Okay. And I don't know if she can, do you want to add anything else to the calendar committee? We did okay? Okay. Do you all have any questions other than me stumbling through this calendar this school year? Because last school year has been a mess with the calendar, and I can say everybody has to understand, a lot of people have been very flexible, and I really appreciate the community working with me. I know my name has probably been mud on some days because someone's got to be the bad guy, and I'm okay with that. But at the end of the day, we have to do what's best for our students and keep that in mind as we move forward. And this school year is what we have for a calendar. You all could approve it tonight, which we really need to move forward and do that. But it has been vetted by both service and professional, and we had a lot of conversations, and we finally narrowed it down to 2, and now we voted on it. And when I say we, the county employees voted on it, and this is the calendar they came up with. It looks like calendar A in small print at the top. There was calendar A and calendar B. They chose calendar A. I don't know exactly what was it a landslide or was it close? Or?
It was a landslide.
It was a landslide.
It was a landslide, so we're not going to get any calls on this, is that?
I would like to congratulate this year's committee. I did not receive any phone calls, emails, text message, messenger message, across the parking lot or at the grocery store. Thank you all so much.
That is a miracle of spring, and I didn't receive any either.
I'm just going to be quiet now. Thank you.
Yeah, you've done your job, apparently.
No, Miss Jones did.
I'm going to tell you, having been in the school system, guys, you just may not realize what a cantankerous, thorny thing preparing a school calendar is. And I'm glad Superintendent Warble learned some things last year on this when he had to reconstruct it. I never liked dealing with it. Honestly, I just wanted to tell me when to come to work, and I came because these things are so intricate. Having said that, we appreciate, I think that serves then as our calendar public hearing. Are there any questions or points to be made by any members? Or anybody? Nobody? Okay. Well, having said that, and since it was a landslide, I'm quoting Mrs. Jones here, let's go to 14E, calendar public hearing. We finished. 14F, approved calendar, fiscal year 21-22.
I make Make a motion, we approve the calendar for fiscal year 21-22.
Chair seconds it. The calendar, approve the calendar for year 21, 22. A motion by the Vice President, second by the Chair. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Aye, opposed, abstaining. Mr. Warble, you have your calendar. 5 votes in the affirmative.
No, it's, we have our calendar.
Okay.
They voted.
All right, okay. Well, they voted, so it was a landslide.
I like that.
And I can't believe Ms. Farley didn't have any calls. Here we go. We're now at item 14G. Approve employee agreement for an additional class period in lieu of planning period. This is a beginning, well, no.
It's just the rest of this.
It's not under a personnel item, then, right?
No.
Okay, we have 14G, approved employee agreement for an additional class period in lieu of planning period between the Board of Education and Jennifer Buckman for the remainder of 2020-2021 school term. Any questions? Chair would entertain a motion.
I make a motion, we approve the additional class period for Jennifer Buckman for 2020-2021.
I'll say.
Motion on the floor, Vice President Farley, seconded by Mr. McBride, that this board approve superintendent recommendation 14G, approved employee agreement for an additional class period in lieu of planning period between the Board of Education and Jennifer Buckman for the remainder of the 2020-2021 school term. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining. 5 votes in the affirmative. Motion carries. Superintendent Worrell. Let's move to item 14H, which is approved appointment of board treasurer for fiscal year 2020-2022. The chair moves that this board approve the appointment of board treasurer for fiscal year 2021-2022. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion on the floor of the chair, second by Vice President Farley. This board approve the appointment of board treasurer for fiscal year 2021-2022 as per superintendent recommendation. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining. 5 votes in the affirmative. This board has approved the appointment of the board treasurer for the coming fiscal year. 14I, discussion and possible action regarding RFP for annual examination of CPA for fiscal 2020-2022. Superintendent Worrell, can you update us on that?
On the RFP,
Yes.
do you want that, Ms. Crook?
I can.
Thank you.
Okay, this is just something that you all have to vote on each year, and this should actually be for fiscal year 2021. So this is just saying that you do want a CPA firm to come in and audit the financial statements for fiscal year 2021.
For the state,
Or the state, either one.
what's your recommendation?
We checked on it, I think it was a year ago or 2 years ago.
The state was more expensive than what we did
This-
with the other group, I think.
Yes, the state was more expensive, and by about $5,000 more.
Superintendent Worrell, you're comfortable with this?
Yeah, I don't want to say the state does this, but sometimes they do it more expensive so they don't get the business. I don't mean that to be disrespectful.
No.
They got plenty of business going on, they don't need more.
Yeah.
And it
Well.
keeps it, checks and balances a little bit as well. I think that's kind of what the spirit of it is.
We'll do the right thing, whether they're listening or not.
Yes.
Okay. The chair moves that the board give permission that an RFP for an annual examination of CPA for fiscal year 2021 be approved.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor of the chair, seconded by Mr. McBride. That this board has moved that we approve an RFP for annual examination of CPA for fiscal year 2021. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? The minutes reflect 5 votes in affirmative. You may get your RFP for the annual examination of CPA for fiscal year 2021. New business item 14J, approved bid for walk-in freezer cooler at Jumping Branch Elementary.
So, do we have the,
I don't have any of the paperwork. It was on the
that's what I need. So Dr. Knott and myself and Ms. Crook reviewed the bids for the walk-in freezer. This is to get the coolers and freezers out of the cafeteria area, cut down on sound. This is also going to open up the space to put in the interactive wall at Jumping Branch. One thing to note, this is just the freezer and its housing. It requires us to do some work as far as a concrete pad that's elevated with the school level and wiring. And the electrical piece in the bid requires us to have the wiring within 6 feet of where they need it. So Dr. Knott has proposed that we accept the Douglas equipment bid, but it is pending not only your approval, but it's also pending the remediation of the electrical at Jumping Branch, because that has to happen before this project and the HVAC project.
Which means that the CARES Act money that's going to be renovating all the electrical system Jumping Branch in preparation for a new HVAC system, that has to be done before this can actually proceed, but you're asking us to approve it now, is that correct?
Correct.
I understand.
It's a chain reaction.
I understand.
What's the funding source on
Carries.
Yes.
Yep.
And this price will be locked in until we get the electrical work done, if we approve it.
That's
It's usually they only guarantee the prices for 30 days. She does have a letter drafted here that she's going to send to Douglas Equipment stating that the project must be county board approved and that she will keep them appraised of our electrical upgrade needs. But the electrical and HVAC has been republished and should be in the newspaper tomorrow, stating the new parameters of the HVAC electrical upgrade, where we've asked for implementation and construction solely in that bid. So we're pushing that.
I think, now you correct me if I'm wrong, from purchasing, you would want to go ahead and purchase that to save the current price, but you get in an issue, I think, with policy 8200, since we don't know when we can do that. We can't encumber money into the next fiscal year. How about that? Okay. So we can't do what we might like to do. We'll just have to, it would appear to me that we got to take this on face value, and we'll have to find a way to handle it if in fact the price goes up. Vice President Farley.
You may have already answered this, I didn't hear. Were we able to do the cost of the work, the electrical work and the concrete, can we do that as CARES money act as well?
You should be able to. Yes, you should be able to
It
do that.
should be
with
all
CARES.
wrapped in, yeah, that's
Okay.
yes.
So
And that is something that, other than electrical, but as far as a pad, our maintenance people can do that with no problem.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I spoke to Charlie, and he I think we were thinking about $7,500 because it's going to require some block. It's about 3 or 4 feet to get it to level, because we don't want our cooks having to go up steps.
Well, that's going to be what it's going to be, but getting that old system out of that cafeteria and getting a new one is worth the price.
And all of these dominoes at Jumping Branch, this is all coming with, this is what gives me palpitations here, is we're behind, but we're ahead.
Yeah.
So Superintendent Warville would say, we're doing good. We're farther ahead than I thought we'd be,
That's true.
but we've got some dominoes that have to be set correctly before the kids come back at Jumping Branch. So the electrical, the HVAC, the freezers, and
Don't forget the roof.
the roof and the interactive wall.
That's okay, Mr. Lester, we just hold you accountable for it.
That's what I was afraid you were going to say.
And I know that the fact we hold you accountable, we'll get her done. So get her done. Okay. I'm gonna do this
Also,
one.
Mr. Duncan, just to give you a hard time.
Sure.
You see where it says community volunteerism? This is where maybe our Mr. Rogan taking the new guy under his wing, like someone took him under his wing, and maybe we get some volunteers in that area and do some concrete work and get them going. And, you know, that's just a thought too. And I'm just giving you a hard time since you're the new board member, Mr. Angel, so I thought I'd welcome you by hazing you for 1 second, okay?
If you wanna come look at some block I'm laying, you may reconsider that.
10-4.
Okay.
We can hold off on
I don't know, what do you think about this, Mr. Angel? You in favor of this? Chair, entertain a motion from anyone.
Having been through that school as a student, and having 4 kids that have also been through that school, I realize how loud it is in that cafeteria. And I know that this is something my dad had lobbied for many years, so I would like to make a motion that we do approve the bid for the walk-in freezer cooler at Jumping Branch Elementary.
Chair seconds that. We have a motion on the floor, Mr. Greg Angel, seconded by the chair, that this board approve the bid for the walk-in freezer / cooler at Jumping Branch Elementary. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, 5 votes in the affirmative. This bid has been approved. This brings us to item 15 under personnel items, and the chair would move that this board go into executive session under 6-9A-4, paragraph 2, personnel. There's a motion on the floor.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor of the chair, seconded by Vice President Farley. This board go into executive session under 6-9A-4, paragraph 2, personnel. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained. By 5 votes in the affirmative, this board will move into executive session and we'll go into our new conference room upstairs. I would ask that all board members take their agenda with them. And